All right, looks like we are live and good to go. Let me just get myself here on screen as well. Let's see here. Looks like we are live and good to go. Let me just get myself here on screen as well. All right, there we go. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am here tonight with Mr. David Kim. He is joining us. He is getting feedback there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am here tonight with Mr. David Kim. He is joining us. He is getting feedback there. So anyway, David Kim is from District 34, and he is joining us to talk about his campaign. He is endorsed by Yang and Marianne Williamson.
Is that coming from your live stream thing?
I'm sorry?
I think the echo is coming from your live stream that's on, right? It's the playback?
It sure sounds it.
Maybe just muting that.
It sounds it. Yeah, let me turn that out. Okay, how about now? Is that better?
I can still hear a little bit.
Okay, how about now? Is that better? All right. Let's see. Why is it being so stubborn? I've done over 300 shows, I swear. They say sound is good. Hopefully it's just on our end. Let's see. Let me do this, you guys. Well, they're saying sound is okay. I almost want to go out and come back in just because I don't want this to echo on people. Are you okay if we do that?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't hear the echo anymore.
Oh no, I don't either. Okay.
Do you think we're good?
My word. Well, you know, it's not embarrassing or anything, so it's all good.
Okay. Well, we can sign back out if you want, but it looks like it's good right now. Ooh, I just heard it.
Let me see. Let me close this out. All right. So you can hear me okay, David?
I can hear you fine and clear.
Okay. Perfect. Sorry about that, guys. I am not sure what's going on. I will blame it on I am mostly blind. So this is like one of those like you know, special program things, and I just lost most of my sight like last year, so I'm still kind of getting used to all this not so fun crap. But in any case, thank you so much for joining us, and we're hearing so much about your campaign. So to start off, your website says you're an immigration attorney, and you are second generation Korean. So tell us a little bit about that, especially in these times right now, just seeing all of the horrendous things going on.
Yeah. As an immigration attorney, so I currently work as an immigration attorney, as you pointed out. Actually, before that, so since we've had some sound complications, for those tuning in, my name is David Kim. I'm running for U.S. Congress here in Los Angeles, CA 34, which includes downtown LA, Koreatown, Eagle Rock, Highland Park, Willow Heights, and surrounding neighborhoods. And just as Savage shared, I do work as an immigration attorney. I defend respondents in immigration court when they receive their notice to appear for removal, deportation. And so I fight for their extension and stay here. And whether that be different means of relief through 42B or through asylum, et cetera. And so I help applicants with their asylum interviews, their applications, their green card interviews. And it's very personal to me, given that I am a son of immigrant parents who immigrated to the States as illegal aliens, undocumented as well. And so I understand, and I'm all too familiar with what that means to our family and how it affected us, but can't even imagine how it's affecting those right now, given the times that we're in with ICE and the horrible things that they're doing. With these stories now just coming out, which makes you think, how long has this been in place? And what has been going on, and why has this not been addressed before it even hit the media? What's going on? And it makes you kind of think, what is our government doing? Like, it's not a matter of, I mean, yes, our government's already become its own reality show in a way. Like tonight's debate is more like a match to see who can jab and hit hardest with sound bites. But in the sense of what we're seeing right now is even beyond reality TV. It's inhumane. What are we doing in terms of authorizing and funding this, and letting this continue? And so for me, that's also kind of one of the experiences that I've had that helped mold my decision in running for Congress, because of the urgency of the times right now in so many different areas, whether that be financial depression and distress, or whether that be another area including immigration. And so yeah, we're fighting for these issues that affect our district, because our district is very diverse. It has many immigrant communities, with whether that be in the Latino community with the Salvadoran population, Guatemalan, Mexican, etc., or with the Asian population, Korean, Chinese, Filipino, and many others. And it's something so important to our district, and we need somebody there fighting for us. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm also.
Absolutely. And I saw on your Twitter that the guy you're running against is actually takes money from private prisons who do deal with ICE. So and as well as, I believe you said 98% of their fundraising is from big donors.
Yeah, it's definitely an eye-opening, very jarring number to know that 98.8% of my elected official congressman, of his campaign donations, 98.8% of that consists of big money and corporate PAC donors. What does that mean? And so with the PACs, we're talking about PAC money, including that from private prisons like Core Civic. Core Civic is one of the biggest private prison companies in the country, and it's contracted by ICE to hold our people in the detention centers in these horrible conditions where no human being should be allowed to even experience. And so the fact that our current congressman says, hey guys, I'm helping the immigrant communities, but I'm going to continue funding ICE, an organization and law enforcement that breaks up your families, that does harm to you physically, mentally, emotionally, in so many different ways. I'm going to continue funding that. And I'm also going to take money from the private prisons that my funding decision for funding ICE will go ahead and pay out now. So it's not just one layer of conflict of interest in mind. Now you're taking money from the private prisons that are hired by the agency that you continue to fund. And it's just wow, we need to look deeper into what's going on. And what's I'm not even going to say funny. What's sad is is even on his committee, he's trying to investigate core civic or and it's like, do you not even realize that you take money from them? What's going on? And it's this kind of hypocrisy that our people aren't aware of and need to be aware of and know about. And so thankfully we've had leaders like Bernie and people along the way help open our eyes and let us out of the birdcage. But now it needs to go deeper into our down ballot congressional races as well. And so we need people running for office. Not the presidential race is, yeah, it's very important, but but we can bring change in other ways, and that's with down ballot races like this.
Absolutely. Do you, I mean, I digress somewhat, but do you feel like when you're sharing these things to people about the current congressman that they're just kind of taken aback, like they didn't even realize, you know, they take so much money from corporations and such, or do you think that people are kind of educated on those things?
No, from our experience, so I decided to September, I'm looking at the calendar right now, it's September 29th. There's 35 days left. I know that moving forward, but it's been about 14 months since I think around 14 months since I decided and filed to run in this race. And during the past 14 months, for those who even know who Jimmy is, because the majority of the people I talk to don't know who he is. But it's this blind just reflex of us when we go to the polls to vote or when we turn in our mail-in ballot. We just look for whoever the current person is and then just check and then send it in. So many people don't even know what his name is. So that's the first of all a thing that we really need, that we could work on and we get to work on as the people, to more consciously vote and know who we're voting for, and realize that, hey, we can't actually feed into the system and enable it to continue and operate in oppressing the people right now. If re-election and re-electing these incumbents do nothing for us, maybe it's time to start doing something else. But for those who do know who Jimmy is, they go out kind of gung-ho support for those who do, and then those who do know Jimmy might say, oh, actually, I've never seen him in my district, so I don't know who he is. But of those, then narrowing it even down, those who are very supportive of Jimmy at first, they go ahead and say, yeah, Jimmy's been a good congressperson. He's did a good job in assembly, did a decent job. And so he needs to stay, he needs to continue. And so that's sort of the tone. But then when you ask them politely, okay, that's good to hear. I'm glad to hear your opinion. Could I just share just 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes, 30 seconds, just more about him and who he really is. And in terms of the corporate money that he takes, the lack of issues and stances that he stands for, because he doesn't really stand for anything. He stands just for what the few leaders at the top of the Democratic Party tells him to do, and what the majority does. And so he doesn't really stand or fight for anything when homelessness is a crisis in our district, when lack of affordable housing is a crisis in our district. And so, so with that, after I talk about, yeah, he profits money from human suffering. Private prisons make money off of human suffering. He takes that. He takes money from police packs. He takes money from Big Farm. Yeah, I get it. He does say he supports Medicare for all, but have you really seen him fighting for it? Maybe there's a reason that he's not really fighting for it. Maybe he's just like Pelosi, where she just makes a call. Like, we know that she made calls to her farm friends in the big farm industry saying, hey guys, I know you're worried about Medicare for all, but it won't pass. I'll make sure it won't pass. And so when you have politicians and elected officials taking money, these campaign promises end up becoming mere lip service and platitudes that just continue to be fed to the people over and over just for re-election's sake. And so that's why we see nothing happening. And that's why we see people losing trust in government. That's why we see people hanging up the phone call once you hear, once you catch on that it's a volunteer for a campaign that's calling you, or the candidate themselves. And it's sad, but I get it, why the people are jaded. I get why they don't care. But now's our time to really empower, inspire, because once we continue to grow this movement, it's grown since 2016 when Bernie Sanders ran for president the first time, and it's continuing to grow. And it's not going to stop. at any point. I just see it growing even more than what it's been in the past. And so it's our duty, with Savage, you doing this podcast, bringing me onto the platform, me running for office, those helping out on our campaign tirelessly. That's how we do this together as a people, and show them that we actually do have a voice, and that we do matter, and that we do have the power.
Absolutely. I always say, to my viewers that you guys are my favorite people to interview, because you guys are activists. You're not, you're not professional politicians. You guys are real people who just want to take that leap. And you
Savage,
touched on a little bit.
I'm getting media preps from my team, because I'm not a politician, so it's like there's a way to like answer things, but anyhow, yeah, I am totally not. I'm putting a pause in my personal life right now. Yeah, go ahead, Savage. Sorry to
that's why people tell me to run, and I'm like, have you heard my mouth? Not gonna happen ever. But yeah, I mean, so you talked a little bit about why you decided to run, but let's say back, a few years ago, did you ever think that you would take this leap and run for office?
Yeah, that's a very great question. I like how you talk about the now and then backtrack. I like that, because it definitely it makes it more connectable. I think for me, 2018 was the year that I started to become more aware of what's going on in our government, what's going on in local, what issues are important. Because so I moved to Los Angeles in 2010. And so from 2010 to 2018, I really spent my 8 years just hustling, doing the grind, and 2 to 3 job grind and hustle, trying to make ends meet, making payments, really doing that. And so I didn't have the time, or I didn't think I had the time to really be involved and aware. But it wasn't until 2018 when I received a text from Kenneth Mejia's congressional campaign. So Kenneth Mejia ran for U.S. Congress for the same seat and position that I'm running for now, against the same opponent.
Yes, I had him on.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Cool. Yeah. So I call him my godfather. Kenneth, if you're watching, what's up? So Kenneth, yeah. So I received a text message from his campaign, and it says, my name is Kenneth, and I'm 26, 27, I forget what age, years old. And I'm fighting for universal Medicare, Green New Deal, canceling student debt. And it was like, when reading it, I was like, wow, this is bold. I mean, but it's really needed, but this is refreshing. But I mean, hopefully it'll happen. And it just started all of these questions inside my head and my heart and my soul. And so I was curious. And so I reached out, I started volunteering. I ended up volunteering a lot for his campaign. And unfortunately, his campaign didn't end up winning. He didn't end up winning, but he did a great job. He ran as a Green Party candidate. There's less than 1% registered as Green in our district, but yet 28% of the total vote of the general election. And our district is heavily Bernie. It's Bernie 2016 to 2020, both Bernies. And a third of them voted for Kenneth. And it shows you that a third of them didn't even vote for their own congressman who's in office, because they want to see somebody who's fighting for them, who stands for something, who's passionate about it, and not a career politician who's in there playing part of the musical chair system that's going on in Los Angeles, with these politicians just trading seats to each other, and taking corporate money. And so for us, our district, because we are financially distressed and we are one of the poorest out of the 435 in the country, like, times are tough and we don't have time to waste. So we can't afford to waste another 2 years waiting, hoping for change. And so that's why we're stepping up. That's why Nithya Raman is stepping up to run for city council here in Los Angeles. That's why Constantine Anthony's running for Burbank City Council, Godfrey for State Assembly, Fatima for State Assembly as well, Angelica. I'm just giving them all name shout outs because we're all from the community. Like, we know how hard it's like, because we've lived in it, we live in it, we have families and friends in it. And when you get to a point as a career politician where you become so disconnected with what the grind is like, how are you supposed to effectively legislate if you're not on top of that co-governing with the people, if you're not on top of that, having regular town hall meetings that are accessible at any time, if you're not on top of that, talking with the constituents about how to legislate or vote on certain legislation before going back to DC, like if you're not doing that, then how are you going to really manifest the will of the people when that's your job? When your job as an elected official in the government is to manifest and represent the will of the people, do your job. And so this race really savages, I think, for down ballots across the country is do your job. Like, do your job if you're going to be in office. If not, we're going to take it from you, because now we can't wait anymore. And that's what we're doing in our district. And I think all of those people who have empowered us to do that, like Bernie Sanders, AOC, Marianne, Andrew Yang, those people who have helped us. And so that's why we're here. And so it's very important to get engaged. And so that's how I got activated Savage.
It seems like, do you feel, I'm in Pennsylvania, but it seems like a lot of people are realizing that we can demand more.
Yeah, we can demand more. We've become, not to say that we've intentionally done it, but we've become in a way, and it sounds kind of harsh, but
complacent.
I don't know if Walking Dead is the word, but we've kind of become callous and insensitive just to kind of realize, oh, we actually, to the fact that we do have power, that if we do stand up and make a ruckus together in one voice, in unison, concerted, strategically together, that we have so much power. But then the reason why I understand also is because times are tough for people. They're busy trying to make ends meet. Before COVID, we had at least 70% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. So one of the ways that the system, I mean, the government has been set up against us, but one of the ways that the system continues to allow this enablement, and yes, there's our part and role to step up in civic engagement, but one of the ways that the system continues to go on in perpetuity in a way is because they control the people through poverty. We have a 35 plus year, 40-year income wage stagnation. We have wealth gaps that are the biggest in our country's history. We have the biggest transfers of wealth to the few privileged, wealthy billionaires, corporations, military defense contractors during the pandemic. We have all of that, but yet no one's fighting for the people, and the people really can't fight because they're trying to make ends meet and they're really struggling right now. Why is it that we haven't even gotten, why is it that we've only even gotten one $1,200 stimulus checks? Like, what is that in comparison to other countries that are less well off than us? And so if we really are that land of opportunity where we are working for the people, where we do care for the people again, then let our actions show forth for it. And so for our platform, if you go to our page, we have what's called a floor to stand on. Every American deserves a floor to stand on. Every American deserves to thrive and prosper. Isn't that what being in this country is about? Why are we continuing to draw lines? Why are we continuing to treat people as not being human? Why are we doing that? And so our floor to stand on is ensuring that people don't have to worry about having a roof to sleep under, a room to sleep in, to pay for healthcare, to have access to education, to pay for basic expenses, to have good food. And so a floor to stand on involves giving the people Medicare for all, a universal basic income, Green New Deal, a homes guarantee, which is already and a lot of some of these are already in Congress, like a homes guarantee. Representative Ilhan Omar already introduced that, and others taking money out of politics, reforming immigration, creating a fast track to citizenship program for our millions and millions of undocumented people who pay billions in taxes each year, in comparison to our president who only pays $750 in federal taxes. And he accuses and points fingers and creates this whole polarized hate against our immigrant communities when they've contributed much more than he has. With that, with creating a constituent political accountability bill where our elected officials are required to hold mandatory town halls that are accessible at any time, where the constituents can show their concerns about legislation before their representative goes and votes on it. So these are the types of things that our Americans deserve. And it's about time. And these are policies that we can be completely behind and push to make happen if we just care enough, if we care enough about ourselves. And so if you're listening and this strikes something to you where you might think, even if you're just tuning in for the first time to Savage's show and you're thinking, oh, I just happen to be behind here, politics isn't me, I just kind of rolled in. No, politics is everywhere. Like when I turn off this light, like this is politics right here, because there's politics behind that. When I get my paycheck, when I pay my rent, there's everything's politics. So have a voice. If we're teaching our children, hey, you can make a difference, you can pursue your dreams, then we need to ensure that we create that country and system and government for our people, for our children, and not just say that by speech. That means we need to show up in our voting records as well, that we can't continue to re-elect and enable these incumbents into office. And I know that these policies, for me, Savage, there was a point where, because I had so many jobs, 2 to 3 jobs, when I finally had that single job I was working, I was like, whoa, this feels weird to have a single job right now. Like, kind of, because I had that 2 to 3 job grind and hustle so much. But it's like, how do we ensure that that continues for our children? When I talk about it with my parents who immigrated in 1983, they say that if they were to immigrate now, they would never be able to create the life that they could when they immigrated back then. It's gotten worse and worse in their eyes. And I do understand that even, and so that's where my parents acknowledge, you know what, like when you frame the conversation on you and your generation, and we hear the stories and experiences and struggles that you have as our children and your friends and their stories, oh my gosh, thank you for sharing. This gives us a lot of light to decide how to vote in this upcoming election. And so for those who are watching, talk with your parents, talk about them, talk about your own experience, connect with them with your own stories and struggles that you hear your own friends and community members experiencing, because it's connection that brings us all together. It's connection that gives us more information and awareness on how to really vote to the best of our ability as for the greater good of our people. And so that's just something that's very important that I guess I kind of wanted to stress since I went off on a tangent on that, but it's very important. And so,
yeah, everything you said is completely pertinent. And, you know, you did touch a little on the homes guarantee. And every time I interview a candidate from California, it seems like they automatically go to homelessness. Your state, it's so prevalent there. How is it in your district? Do you find that there's just an overabundance of homelessness and not enough shelters?
Yeah, we have just in our city alone, we have over 40,000 brothers and sisters living unhoused. In our Los Angeles County, we have over 60,000 brothers and sisters living unhoused. And when you look at that, it's like, wow, these numbers are increasing every year. If you don't really see improved numbers. If you would, then we wouldn't be talking about this every time we're on your show, like you said, Savage. But because it's not being addressed, it's become something so serious where even in Los Angeles, many people, when they're coming over, they just think, I mean, here we just have 10 communities in every part of the city, and who aren't even being protected because our city officials aren't doing anything to protect them. They are in favor of sweeping the streets, throwing away their property, and imagine your home being thrown away like just like that, and then you have to go find your home again. And so in a city where the officials don't even care and look at our unhoused brothers and sisters as people themselves, we need county officials, state officials, federal officials stepping in to help if that's the case. But when you're in a position of that kind of power, and I'm talking about my opponent, and you have your wife as the chief of operations for Mayor Garcetti of the city, then you better be working on collaborating to ensure that those who are unhoused don't have to choose only that as an option during this pandemic. where if you're dispersing funds, and in the earlier COVID relief acts that Congress passed, about $10 billion plus was passed towards housing assistance, homelessness prevention, those related types of services on a federal level to local governments. And so when doing that, couldn't you also commandeer hotels to also provide housing to our unhoused? Couldn't you be more hands-on? And I think this is a theme that we find common in all of our elected officials, and on our federal level. And so that's why I'm running, where there's not enough follow through. There's not enough care or ownership or conviction to follow through. And so that's why we saw all of those pandemic unemployment assistance issues in the beginning, with the state agencies not being able to disperse it, with constituents not being able to know where to get the right information, and there being that gap between the federal and state governments. It's because there's no follow through. There's not that care that's put in, because your job as a leader isn't just voting on bills. It's beyond that. It's being a voice in your community, leading on conversations, framing discussions and what the leading issues of our times are, and co-governing with the people on that, but then also pushing for these issues in other ways. And so it's just very important for us to and I'm getting so passionate about it, but it's just very important for us to really realize what's going on, and to just be more pertinent. So yeah, so I hopefully that answered some of your questions on that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, don't stop yourself.
Oh, you wanted me to keep on going? Okay.
My show is organic.
There's times where I like answer the question and then I just go off and I'm like, and you know what? And let's talk about this, because it's very important. And it is, because all of this is very important. And I think now is a time, and I know that I myself too did not pay attention to politics or government before, and I confess of that. And I wish I had, but now that I do know how important it is, I'm that evangelist, I guess, in a way, where it's, no, we need to be more aware of what's going on. Yes, go read about that issue. Yes, go learn about what the cons are, the con arguments are, the pros. Go research any questions that you have, because that's how we become more informed. Because once we codify these things, once we put people in office, there's no point of return, because the action's already been done. We need to realize the consequences of our action. And so I think, just as what our parents always taught us, like, there are consequences for our action. And if you think about the consequences of our actions right now, we haven't been in an external, and this is something I've said on a few recent interviews, because it was this light bulb epiphany that hit me, Savage, where it was like, oh my gosh, we haven't been in an external worldwide international conflict since World War II, that's of like World War II stature. But why is our government and country so fucked up right now? Or like, and it's not because of some external force, it's because our own leaders led us to this point right now, with economic stagnation, with depression, with crisis in every area. And so it's us to realize, whoa, we've let them control in their own arena for way too long. We need to reel back their power a little bit, and have us run for office, because a government, a democratic one, is more representative when it represents the people, and not just career politicians who represent a fractional percent of the population. A representative government is one that represents people like, I want to see you run for office, Savage. People like Savage or me or whoever running for office. And if you're not, then helping other people or broadcasting their voice and their story and their platform, like what you're doing now. And that's what a representative government is including people from different walks of life, from different stories, from different ethnicities, from different races, and all of that. And that's what makes America. But I think we've just become too comfortable in what we do. And I have this conversation with some older generations in our immigrant communities, whether they be in our Korean one or other immigrant communities as well, where they too, although they might be conservative in their views because perhaps it's based on their spiritual views or religious views, as it's very connected to church and is a lot of us do know that for some reason, well, I know the reason, but for some reason, Republicans are identified with the Protestant church and Christian church and religion, and being that party that helps that and supports them. But here's a tip for all of those listening. As a pastor's kid growing up, the Republican Party sent propaganda material to our, and I'm not going to say propaganda, they sent material and pamphlets to our church and my parents every single election, every single campaign season. And so, and it was just like, and then they would paint the Democratic candidates with like horns and devil horns on them and everything. And so I get that my parents' generation, some of them might still be conservative and sort of in their views, not understanding why some issues are important. But when you connect it to who you are as a family, as a nuclear unit, when you connect it to their children's stories and the experiences and suffering that their children are experiencing, suddenly it's like, oh yeah, what about my kids after I'm no longer here? Even though I want to be here forever, what about them? And so you do see this connection, this human connection, this humanity sort of returning, where it's like, oh yeah, like yes, this is about my children. This is about us continuing and people being able to live lives. Like, how sad would it be if America became a country that looked like those in those dystopian movies in Hollywood, where there's masses living in poverty, poverty upon poverty. And that's what we don't want to be. And I clearly see that being an option for us if we continue to going down the route that we're going down with having these corporate establishment, whether they be Democrat or Republicans in office right now, because we really need to separate and take out corporate money from politics right now, because it's our government is serving corporate interests and the rich and the few. Our government is an oligarchy right now, and we can't let that continue. Bernie Sanders called it out in the 90s. We should have listened to him then. Why aren't we listening to him now? He's been yelling and preaching it, but we're still not listening. We're still not.
Well,
but there's hope. Sorry, I'm not trying to be the.
I'm listening all the way across the country. Then when I moved to Iowa to help his ass campaign.
Yes. No, the listening number is growing. Yes, I'm not being the negative. Yes, we're growing, and that's why we're doing this, Savage, and that's why we're talking and sharing. So those who are watching, like don't just keep it to yourself. Like, if it's that important for you, for how you're about to live, for you to see that light at the end of the tunnel, for you to even have boots to pull bootstraps up with, like, then fight for it. That's what we need to fight for. We're not fighting for it because the government has been controlling us through poverty, through all of these things. Yes, I get that it's tired, but now it's our time to realize that even awareness alone, that even us as ourselves voicing it is enough. And so if we fight for it and if we come together as one voice, how powerful is that? To put in context again, our district, 700,000 constituents like any other congressional district. Our district, the highest turnout is 150,000 voters. And when you look at that, you kind of think, ooh, I don't know what my light now. When you look at that, you think, wow, 700,000 voters. So how many are registered? So there's about 310,000 that are registered. And so of that, just about a half of them is the highest turnout. So if you're able to just double that, imagine how much change that would bring. If we were to just increase voter registration by maybe just even 25%, and then the voter turnout by 25%, wow, that would be some big, powerful change. Because what I've noticed, Savage, the more that we go out, and unfortunately, we haven't been able to because of the pandemic as much, but we've still been using our digital campaigns with email blasts, text blasts, live streaming, etc., and mailers now. But the more we got out pre-COVID, knocking on doors, knocking on Republican doors, Libertarian, Green Party, Independent doors, the more we were able to connect on, hey, where we're going right now is not the right direction. And that's something that we can all acknowledge right now. And that's what we were able to connect with. So every closing door that we had was opened and left open for 5, 10, 15 minutes because we had that conversation about how it's affecting our families, how it's affecting me, how it's affecting the neighborhood that I've lived in for the past few years or the past 20 years. Wherever you might be in that. And so I think for us, instead of talking about what do you believe in, what are you fighting for, it's like, hey, what are you experiencing right now? What are you struggling with? What, oh, I can connect with that. And I think we can, if we start from a deeper level, that's how we can really start to bring more change and more alliances in place and really work together. And so I hopefully, I mean, we hear Mnuchin and Nancy Pelosi working on a stimulus bill right now, and we'll see how that turns out. I mean, you're shaking your head already, and, and I'm shaking my head inside already. But it's this, like, even in that, like, after this Friday, everybody's gonna return to their campaign trail because they all want to get reelected. So now's the time to really show face and save face. So I mean, let's see what happens in the next couple days. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that the person you're running against, do you think they will debate you?
No, he would not debate me. Once he debates me, that means we win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that means once he debates me, that means we win. Because everybody will read what our campaign is about, see the videos, learn more about the both campaigns, and be able to really clearly decide, oh, David's campaign is the one that the people are really pushing and fighting for, and they're fighting for as well. That's the one that's the campaign to support, and to give us that platform would be amazing, but he would never say yes to that because then we would end up with it. So
something I'm seeing people do, which I totally recommend, is they're coming out and formally saying, I would like to challenge you to a debate. And then when they don't, you could be like, yo, they're scared to debate me. And it's like a good PR boost.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
we offered to debate them. He was too scared. So
yeah.
We win.
Yeah, we've definitely done that. And he's also not shown up at one that was invited by a third party as well, organized by a third party as well. So, but that's, and what's funny though is, not funny, but what's definitely notable is that these incumbents, they care the most when it's re-election time, because for them, it's just a career thing. It's all about a career. It's nothing about the people. It's all about the career. And I can't even stress that so much. It's all about the career.
And if you can't get them to care now, of all times, when people are voting in a month, they're good luck. Because now is the time when you have that leverage. We as the people, we have that leverage, and we could say, look, if you want our vote, this is what you're going to do. And if you're, we're all at that point and they're not, helping us at all, they're never gonna.
Yeah. And that's what I'm very kind of fearful for as well, to be honest, Savage, in the sense of the November, and I'm going to bring it up again, but November 3rd, what's going to happen, not just with the presidential race, with Congress, because we have, you see these incumbents trying to, quote unquote, show that they're fighting for the people suddenly during this re-election time, where they do these moves like voting to defund the Pentagon by 10%, when clearly a couple months ago they voted to pass $733 billion as House Democrats. And that's even more than the 10% cut. So it's like, we see through it all, like what's going on. And it's like, it's this sadness for me, where it's like, after November 3rd, and let's say the same people have the majority, like, are you guys going to now suddenly change because it's not re-election season time again? Like, how much more are we going to be screwed? And so that's what I'm very fearful of, and that's what's definitely keeping us just busy for the next 5 weeks. 5 weeks from today, it's November 3rd. 5 weeks from today. And so that's what's keeping us busy. We don't want to regret when we wake up on the day of November 3rd, waiting for those results as they trickle in at the end. And so that's what we need to continue pushing and fighting for right now. Yeah. I just took you there. But yeah.
Woo! I need some Ativan up in here, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're fucked either way, but I mean, it's still, it's a different kind of fuck. So it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's, people are so focused on the presidential race, but like you said, like it is just as important that we get people like yourself in there, because I mean, it's not just the president going to be making the decisions. We have to have votes on things, and you guys are going to play that part. You do talk a lot about UBI, and we're seeing a lot of other countries getting $2,000 a month each person automatically. Like you said, we got one check for $1,200. Some of us. And as far as UBI goes, there are some there's some confusion with some people, and there are, like, I guess, different kinds of UBI. Now, some, I believe that Andrew Yangs did cut Social Security and unemployment and things like that, and replaced it with UBI if it was a higher amount. Is that kind of the route you'd be going?
No. So ours would stack upon any current benefits that anyone's receiving right now, because it doesn't make sense to pull out anything that you're already receiving from out under you in that sense. And so it's very important. So those who are still receiving SSI and other related safety net benefits would still be able to receive that, because it's very crucial. Like, how are you going to suddenly rebudget and then recalculate and for things that are crucial to your daily living and well-being? So that's definitely not. But a UBI is definitely something that would really strengthen our people right now, would empower them again, would give them the ability to not choose between paying rent or buying food, would allow them to take care of their immediate needs, would allow them to actually be able to help cope with this pandemic and being able to stay inside all the time. Like, what, and so in regards to how much it would do even just for that on an individual level, or for our families to be able to afford like the basic necessities that we went over, or for our local economies to be able to even give the purchasing power back to those local family-owned businesses and restaurants that are closing down left and right. Here in our district, we have businesses that have been opened for 30 plus years closing down permanently. And it's a sad, sad thing when you have Congress just holding things up, not doing anything, helping, and these local governments running out of federal grant money because they've already misused it. I did read that, I think it was the mayor of Minneapolis. Don't quote me on this one. It was through, I think the mayor of Minneapolis used some of their federal grant money for a basic income type of program for their residents, and that's been helpful for their community. And so I really think another thing that needs to happen is just federal, state, local communication with grants as well. But going back to UBI, it would be so empowering, so life-giving to each person, to each family, to communities, to businesses, to everywhere. And that's why we see it being implemented in countries all around, even in Korea as well, where they're talking about it. So it's the next step.
It, especially during a pandemic, it's mind-blowing. They're not doing things for us, like UBI and also Medicare for all. I do see that on your platform as well. That's a lot of us, that's like one of our number one issues.
Yes.
Why is that something that you put on your platform?
Yeah, because I've had to worry about paying for ambulance expenses that were several $1,000s because of a panic attack, because of instances where, and I have a lot of medical debt myself that I still need to pay back for. But what about, like, forget about me? How about everyone else as well who have more, who aren't even able to go see a doctor because our elected officials are taking money from Big Farm, who aren't even able to go see if they're okay or not because our elected officials continue to give lip service about caring for them and paying for their healthcare. And so in these things, it's like, you can't be doing that with lives that are at risk. These are human lives. We're not playing a game of, I don't know, tic-tac-toe or X's and O's or whatever it is that you're playing. Like, we can't do this game of politics with human lives. Every second counts. And I think it's this seriousness, this gravity that people don't realize that comes with their being elected. And it's something that they really need to take seriously. And so with that being said, our healthcare is a human right. It's not something that should be attached to a job or whether or not you're able to have one. Or and I've met constituents when doing because I can't meet constituents in person as much now, I meet them during yard sign drops. And if you want a yard sign and you live in Los Angeles, holler, you can sign up on our website. But I meet constituents doing yard sign drops talking about the medical expenses they still have to pay for. And so Medicare for all is something that at the basic core, we should be giving and allowing for our people if we are a government that's of the people, for the people, and by the people. What does that all mean? These participles all mean different things, of, for, and by. And we're not doing what we're called to do as a government right now. I feel like I'm going down these tirades of how the government's lacking behind each core issue like Medicare for all. But
no,
it's so
you gotta
important.
read the comments afterwards. No, people are loving you. Like, no, don't change anything about it.
Okay.
Listen, if they watch me, I go off on rants. That's what I'm known for. That's why they gave me the name Savage Joy. So they don't mind, trust me. Something we didn't get to is
yes.
The Green New Deal, environmental. You're in California along the coast. So of course, you know, you guys have a particular set of concerns as well. What are some of the things environmentally that you would hope to work on to change?
Yeah, I am definitely a Green New Deal pledgee, also alumni of the Green New Deal course, and it's not just about the environment. It's about social justice. It's about our communities. It's about our families. It's about creating a great infrastructure for our country. But it's about moving forward and allowing us to really push forward in all of this. And for Los Angeles in particular, we need to be moving towards that a lot faster, especially in a huge city like ours. We need to be incentivizing everyone, being able to allow to move to electrical cars a lot cheaper, a lot easier, a lot faster, incentivizing that where we're having electrical port stations all around the city. And I know that's more a city thing as well, but the federal government allowing that and working and encouraging governments to work towards that manner. Because here in Los Angeles, when the pandemic started, unfortunately, but then also on the flip side, like we saw the cleanest skies and airs in LA, and you know, you don't really see that clear blue skies. Like you don't see like that kind of clear blue sky in LA. And so how do we talk about this and how do we continue this for LA? And then let's talk about the heat stroke, the heat waves that are coming in, the heat islands that are in LA, our unhoused communities that aren't able to have cooling centers, our senior communities that don't have cooling centers. What are we doing for them on a local environmental level as well? And so if you imagine the federal, county, and local city governments working together, whoa, how explosive is that? That would be crazy. And so these are the things that we need to really start thinking outside of the box. If we can't pass the version of Green New Deal that we want right now, what are the alternatives that we can start pushing for now to move towards renewable by 2030, by electrical by 20, like what are the things that we can start doing now in together in conjunction with each other? So those are definitely things that are on our plate that we really want to push for, because even with climate change, it's sad to say it's attack against poor people as well, because the shadiest neighborhoods here in Los Angeles are all up in Beverly Hills, where most of the percentage of tree-shade population is. And those poor neighborhoods in Los Angeles, we don't have as much tree shade. So even that is just a clear-cut example. Like we really need to care for all of our communities right now, because those that haven't been helped are being hurt the most by climate change as well. And so it's something that's very important to Los Angeles because we are one of the poorest communities in the US.
Absolutely. What is something that you would like to leave our viewers with, like a message they can take to, share this show and recommend you to people in California, and kind of take away from this, and as well as your website, Twitter, all that fun stuff?
Yes. We have 5 weeks left from today. 5 weeks, and it's 5 weeks of great potential to share the good news with people, to tell them, hey, there's hope. When you go vote, when you receive your mail-in ballot, be excited because you get to start marking and voting for change. Now's the start. We actually need help with our campaign, and we have an amazing team. We would love more help in terms of phone banking, in terms of text banking, in terms of really getting the word out. And if you're able to donate, and I understand that some people aren't because we haven't been able to get paid, and if you're that, then don't do that. But if you are able to, you can also donate on our website, davidkim2020.com. And to phone bank specifically, you can go to davidkim2020.com /volunteer, sign up for different opportunities and get an email with that. But yeah, if you know anybody that lives in Los Angeles, tell 5 family or friends, family members or friends, share on your social media. Who knows, a family member or friend that might be reading it and they might be living in our district. So just share, feel free to get the word out, and that would be helping us out a lot.
Awesome. Well, I can't thank you enough, David. I've enjoyed this so much. I guess my question is, can I have your address so I can say I live with you so I can vote with you? That way I could just, write you on my ballot and it would count.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
good. You guys didn't hear that. Well, thank you so much. I truly wish you the best of luck. A few of my viewers recommended you, and I was like, yeah, he seems cool. But you're just a delight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Savage Joy.
Absolutely. And thank you guys so much for watching. I am doing a second show tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern because I'm going to watch this clusterfuck coming on so you don't have to. And then you'll get to listen to my commentary, which I'm sure will be very professional and yeah, so that should be interesting. Also, my books are finally back in stock with Pat and I. Our new book, if you would like it, we are signing them as well, savageandpat.com. It's a political parody on, we do Nancy Pegosi, Alyssa Shalano, all those fun ones. And our show with Nina Turner, who interviewed us about the book, that is coming out shortly as well. So thank you guys so much again for watching. Again, thank you so much, David. I will put this show on Twitter and tag you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Take care.
Take care. Thank you.